Trooper Cody and Steve with a light horse video, and yes, it's about Gallipoli, but the introduction to that video goes back a bit earlier than that. And that's because when Australia was first settled by white people, they were convicts, and they settled Tasmania as convicts, and they settled in New South Wales, in old Sydney town, the Rocks, as convicts. And then some whaling stations set up here and there, and they were rough blokes. Fair dinkum. Dread to think how rough that life would have been with those blokes. And then there's convicts in Victoria, more convicts. And then people start getting pumped. Joker decides they're going to settle South Australia. South Australia is going to be a crime-free utopia. My goodness, if that's not worth a video in itself about what they thought they could achieve in South Australia. But what this all created, particularly in South Australia, where they enacted laws to stop people coming from Victoria and New South Wales and moving to South Australia. They had laws stopping them doing that because they didn't want the convict criminal element in South Australia. And so this created some animosity, if you like, between the states. Now, in 1901, finally, those individual colonies joined together to become Australia as we know it today. You'd say, do those animosities between the states still exist? Well, if you look at America, they had a war between the states that divided the country. And in Australia, we never had that. But by crikey, if you go to an Australian footy game, you'll see some animosity between the different states. And the cities of Melbourne and Sydney, they have some animosity between them, as to which is the better metropolis, if you like. But when Gallipoli happened, 1915, we had only been a country since 1901. It's so few years later. And then there we are, as a country, together in blood and death and horror at Gallipoli. And so Banjo Patterson, our famous poet, much loved by every Australian, he wrote a poem about the fact that we weren't individual colonies anymore, we were one country. So I haven't recited this, I haven't memorised this, but this is Banjo Patterson's We're All Australians Now. Australia takes her pen in hand to write a line to you, to let you fellows understand how proud we are of you. From shearing shed and cattle run, from Broome to Hobson's Bay, each native-born Australian son stands straighter up today. The man who used to hump his drum on far-out Queensland runs is fighting side by side with some Tasmania's farmer's son. The fisher boys drop sail and oar to grimly stand the test along that storm-swept Turkish shore with miners from the west. The old state jealousies of yore are dead as Pharaoh's sow. We're not states' children anymore. We're all Australians now. Our six-starred flag that used to fly half shyly in the breeze, unknown where older nations ply their trade on foreign seas, flies out to meet the morning blue with victory at the prow. For that's the flag the Sydney flew. The wide seas know it now. The mettle that a race can show is proved with shot and steel, and now we know what nations know and feel what nations feel. The honoured graves beneath the crest of Gabba Tetty Hill may hold our bravest and our best, but we have brave men still. With all our petty quarrels done, desertions overthrown, we have, through what you boys have done, a history of our own. With our old world differences now dead like weeds beneath the plough, for English, Scotch and Irish bread, we're all Australians now. So now we toast the 3rd Brigade that led Australia's van, for never shall their glory fade in my minds Australian. Fight on, unflinchingly, till right and justice reign. Fight on, till victory shall send you home again. And with Australia's flag shall fly a spray of wattlebough to symbolise our unity. We're all Australians now. A wonderful poem that Banjo wrote in 1915, and he called it an open letter to everyone that was serving at Gallipoli. We're all Australians now. Cheers, cobbers. Till next time.